After a shocking performance against Brentford that felt like a defeat, where do Manchester United and more importantly, where does Erik ten Hag go from here? Obviously, there's deeper issues at the club that we're going to get into in a little bit, but the first thing we obviously have to address is that Brentford game. Yes, it was 1-1. Yes, we could have nicked the game, but it really did feel like a defeat. That a performance was that shocking. I can't remember one that was worse. Genuinely, we've got beat 4-0 by Brentford before, 3-0 by City, 7-0 by Liverpool, but still, in terms of sitting there watching a game, I don't think I've sat there and been that clueless about what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve as a football club. The first thing to address, obviously, is the shocking stats from the game. I've got them on screen here. We conceded a 2.6 XG. We had 0.5. And then more importantly, the one that's been bandied around everywhere is the amount of touches in our area. 85 touches in the Manchester United penalty area against Brentford yesterday. That is absolutely ridiculous and unforgivable. I think the Premier League record, I think I've heard, is Man City against QPR in 2012 on the final day of the season when they had 87. That's what we're competing with. And we're playing a Brentford team with the least intimidating stadium the Premier League's ever seen, with their entire first choice back four out. Ivan Toney's not long come back and saying all this shit about the club. It's in a bit of dismay at the minute. They're near the relegation zone, and that's a performance we're putting in against a team of that calibre, with the team that we have, with the money that we've spent, with the supposed great manager we've got, and it's completely unforgivable. So let's address why that's happening. Why Man United so poor? Why are we getting dominated by teams like Brentford, home and away, every single week in the Premier League, no matter who's playing or what day of the week it is? And the first thing I want to address is the shocking pressing, or the lack of it, or the disjointedness of the press. Yesterday against Brentford, the amount of times Anthony, Garnacho or Rashford was pressing up the pitch, would be attacking, they wouldn't be tracking back, and then the fullback doesn't press up, the back line doesn't press up. It leaves a massive gap in the midfield for the Brentford fullbacks and wingers to attack, and so many of their chances came from the flanks because they had an extra man and an overlap on our fullback every single time. Put the ball in the box, we're outnumbered there. It's just the same stuff we see all the time, and I just don't get why it's a thing. We're going to get onto that in a bit, but I just don't get why it keeps happening. Do the players not know what they're doing? Do the players not care? Are they ignorant? Do they not listen to instructions? Are they tired? Can't they do it? Is the manager not telling them the right thing? And these are the things and the questions that I and you, if you're a Man United fan watching this video, should have after every single game, because every game brings more questions than it does answers. And it's not even just that. I know we struggle. We always struggle when we play a team with a low block. Brentford commit players in a counter attack. They get players up the pitch quickly, but when they're penned in, they're in a low block. They're kind of playing like a 4-5-1 with Tony up front, or a 4-4-2 with Tony and Mope, Tony and Visser, Tony and Mbuemo. And it's a really low and deep block, and it is hard to break down. And I know as a team we struggle with that, because a lot of the players we've got are very direct, they're very pacey, they're not the best on the ball creation-wise, other than maybe a Bruno Fernandes or a Kobbie Mainoo, and we struggle to create chances when we've got the whole defence in front of us. And I can accept that. That's just what we've become with the players we've got. I get why that's a thing. It's still bad for a team of our calibre, but at least I can see why. But the main thing that I had a problem with wasn't our lack of chances. It was how much we got dominated. I can take us going and struggling to break down a team with a low block. Brentford are a hard team to break down. It happens to the best of us. Happens to the best teams in the league. Never mind us. But we've never been dominated like that before, and that was a concerning thing for me. And even when we did get the ball, it was stagnant, wasn't it? Bruno picked the ball up. It's the same stuff we see all the time. Do the attackers know where they're meant to be playing? Are they meant to be interchanging positions? Are they meant to be making runs? Are they meant to be coming short for 1-2s? It just looks like they've got no kind of philosophy or identity there. Where you watch a City team, an Arsenal team, a Liverpool team, you know how they're going to attack. The players know what to do. And even if you want to give them a bit of freedom, fine. But we had about how much of I think we had over 50% of possession. We had the majority of the ball against Brentford yesterday, but it really didn't feel like it, because the majority of it was in our own half, because we struggled to get out, because of the bad structure of the midfield, with the bad lines, with them not all being joined together, with massive spaces in the middle of the pitch, with the attackers being isolated from the midfield. And it happens week on week, and it's just the same stuff on a different day, and I'm getting really bored of it. And a big reason I'm seeing banded around online for like Mark Goldbridges and all the United social media pages is a lack of effort from the players. The players want Erik ten Hag out. They don't think he's good enough. I've even seen suggestions that they've gone and seen Southgate, some of the England lads, and now they want him in as the manager instead, so they're downing tools for Erik ten Hag, which is an absolutely ridiculous notion, just a stupid thing to say. Because with how Man United play, I've never seen a team like this, a Man United team, since post Sir Alex Ferguson, try this hard for a manager that is clearly failing and bringing nothing and doesn't have the right ideas or the fucking bollocks to win anything at this football club. The players sprint every single week. The players are getting injured every single week because of high-intensity sprints. We've got great running stats as well. We're getting players that are playing for injury like Bruno Fernandes and Johnny Evans, Lisandro Martinez. None of these players are down in tools. They are trying. It's just that they're not trying at the right things because the press is disjointed. So if Rashford presses and Delo doesn't, Rashford's got to then get back and catch up. Same with Antony, same with Garnacho, Højlund, Bruno Fernandes, whoever's in the midfield. And that's where the injuries are coming from. But I genuinely, even under Ollie, I never saw us run this much. I never saw a team try this hard. And it's clear to see, you know, after the win against Liverpool, when they're all going up to Ten Hag, celebrating with him, giving him cuddles and shit like that, that they do like him, that they do want to try, and they are trying. But that's a concerning thing. If the players were down in tools, you could go, well, it's a player's fault. They don't give a shit. They clearly do. That is a problem. The players are trying their utmost, playing through injuries, getting injuries from the tactical instructions that they're getting with a high-intensity sprint, and we're still losing football matches and still not looking good enough in football matches. And I just don't know why that is and why it keeps happening and persisting. And that, for me, is why it all comes down to Erik Ten Hag and his coaching staff and his management. The same stuff's happening every single week. We've got no identity. Everything is just absolutely knackered. And I hear a lot of people say, well, he's only had 18 months, 2 years. A lot of the players he's brought and haven't been good enough, which he wanted, by the way, like your Antony's for £90 million. We've had lots of injuries, you know, stuff going on behind the scenes with your Greenwoods, with your Ronaldos as well, and that's a kind of mitigating factor for him. But I really don't think that it is, because you look at Spurs with Ange, yeah, they're not the greatest football team, they're not going to go and win the league, they're probably not, I don't even know if they can win a trophy this season, I don't think they can, but at least the fans know what to expect. He's come straight in after Mourinho and the likes of Conte, who were playing terrorist ball and, you know, passive, low block, shit football, and completely change the tide there, change the football, change the expectation, change the happiness around the club. And he did that from day one. It didn't take him 2 months, it didn't take him 6 months, it didn't take him £500 million net spend in 2 years. He did it straight away. Even De Zerbi at Brighton, again, they've still got holes in the game. They're not the best side, they're never going to be with the money that he spent. But you watch that Brighton team, for as soon as Potter left and De Zerbi came in, those players knew what to do, the fans knew what to expect, and you know what football Brighton are going to play, you know what football Spurs is going to play, you know what football every single team in like the top 9-10 of the Premier League is going to play every single week, apart from Manchester United, and that's a problem for me. I can take us not being good enough. If we lost 2-1 against Brentford yesterday and we were in the game, we played really well, didn't take our chances, but I could see what we were trying to cook up. I could sit there and take the positives from it and go, you know what, we're trying to do this, we're trying to do that. When we've got the right players back, when Martinez can start, when everyone's back fit and firing, we're going to do something. But I don't see that. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, we could have won that game 1-0 yesterday against Brentford. If say who was it who scored? Ayer never scored, right? And we won with that 1-0 Mount goal. I would be more unhappy with that 1-0 win than I would be if we lost 2-1 and actually had an identity and played some decent football, because I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that's a problem for me here. I can't see where it's going to get better. We got that 4-3 win against Liverpool the other week, and, you know, it was a good win, scrappy win. It was against Liverpool. They play chaotic football. They had injuries, we had injuries. It wasn't the best game of football from us, and there wasn't really a game plan there, but you win it, and then every fan and the fucking dog sits there and goes, well, it's going to be a building block now. Great win. The lads are up for it. The fans are excited again. We've got a good win. We're still in the FA Cup. We've ended Klopp's parade. So we're going to, next week after the international break, we're going to kick on. We're going to kick on. And it never happens. It was the same against Liverpool. We've got so many wins this season where everyone's gone there and said, well, we're going to kick on now. This is going to be a stepping stone. This is a building block. And it never is, because these games that we win, like the 2-1 against Brentford at Old Trafford, never give me any hope or confidence, because there's no patterns there. There's no identity there. It's just the same thing all the time. And the individual brilliance and quality sometimes bails us out, and we cannot keep playing like this. And one of the main things that I forgot to mention earlier in the video is cutbacks that we see time and time again. We have conceded about 15 goals this season from cutbacks. The goal against Brentford yesterday was the exact same again. All the defenders going to the ball. I'll put a screenshot on the screen for you now. There's 6 Manchester United players behind the ball, defending in their own area, and Onana as well. And not one of them picks up the runner from Ayer. Not one of them picks up the 2 or 3 lads on the edge of the box of Brentford that were free for a shot as well. No one ever does it. We've seen it against Brighton. We've seen it against Bayern Munich. We've seen it against all these teams, and it just never changes. This manager and his coaching staff at the club and the analysts at the club watch the games back from 15 to 20 different angles every single weekend, and they're still not picking up on this. They're not telling the back line to push out a little bit higher and try and pick up the third man runners from the midfield. They're not telling the midfielders to sit a little bit higher up the pitch and try and trap people. Leave a man on the edge of the box to track a runner like a Rashford or a Bruno. And we concede so many goals from these same things, and it's just like banging your head against a brick wall, because if I can see it instantly on the football pitch, Why aren't the manager and the coaching staff correcting these things? But I think the worst of all of it for me, and this is genuine, is how delusional Erik ten Hag is in his press conferences. Every single time we lose, or even if we scrape a win, his comments annoy me more than the result of the performance, and that's genuinely the truth. So let's read through this quote together. Man United faced over 30 shots against Brentford, 31 shots to be exact. We've faced the most shots in the Premier League since the 1st of January, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And Ten Hag had to say on this, he's not concerned as long as we get results. We lost many second balls and then you have to defend the box. That's what we did quite well, and we had a great goalkeeper. We concede shots, but we don't concede many goals. What the fuck? Can you not see how that is not sustainable? How is he so delusional that he's saying this shit and believing it? Because it sounds utterly ridiculous to me as a layman, as a fan. Never mind a football manager getting paid millions of pounds a year to coach one of the biggest clubs in the world. How can you say we concede many shots but we don't concede many goals? Okay, that is true. For some reason, we still concede too many goals, but that is true. But can you not see how that isn't sustainable? Because if teams put the ball in the net, if the teams finish, if the teams have a bit more quality up front, you're conceding 4, 5, 6 goals against Brentford yesterday, if that was a Liverpool, a Man City or Arsenal, or even just Brentford who were fit and firing in a bit of better form with the likes of Tony, Visser and Mbeumo. How can he say that? I just don't get it, man, because it's just going to keep happening, and then they will go in and we will concede loads of goals and we'll end up getting panned like we still have this season. I just don't get how he's got this level of delusion about him. The other thing he had to say as well, I've seen Brentford against Man City and City were lucky to win that game. Okay, maybe they were, Erik, but we're Manchester United. I don't give a fuck if Man City with a Man City, you know, the litmus test for everyone, because Man City had an off day and scraped the game against Brentford. That means it's all right for us to have a bad performance. I just don't understand it. Do you know what I mean? I don't care how they played against City. I care how we play against everyone. I couldn't give a shit if City struggled. If we struggled, it's still objectively bad for us. And he's coming out with these comments in his press conferences after every single game and saying stuff like this and saying we were great and saying the lads were trying and we're back next week and there was positives. And there isn't, and that's what the worst thing is. If he was just honest and said we weren't good enough, it's on me. Don't dig the players out, doesn't throw them under the bus, because if he did, to be honest, that would be the last nail in the coffin for him. And I'd be happy with that. I wouldn't be happy. I'd still be unhappy with the football we played, but at least you could sit there and think, right, he's acknowledging the problem. He knows what the problem is here. We're going to fix it next week. We're going to address this on the training pitch, but he's acting like it's all fine. And that's the worst part of it for me, because then when does it stop? When is he actually going to realise that it's not all fine and that it's all fucked? And I just really don't know where we go from here. I mean, to conclude, he has to go for me, whether it be now, tomorrow, next week or the end of the season, because we spent 400-500 million quid on players that weren't worth it, that we didn't need, like your Anthony's. We're failing. We're playing terrible football. There's no identity. There's no progression from if we win, lose or draw, and it just has to stop. It really just has to stop. Like I said, if we were playing decent football and being unlucky and we finished 6th this season and we're in the Europa League and didn't even win a trophy, I'd sit there and go, give another couple $100 million, give us a transfer window, get the lads back in from injuries after the Euros, and we'll go again. But there's no hope, there's no optimism, and there's no reason for me or for you watching this video, even if you're massively delusional like Erik is, to think it's going to get better. And that's the crux of it for me. It's the same stuff happening every single week that's happened for over a year. The players do try, the players aren't throwing under the bus. There's one man and one lot of coaching staff to answer for this shit at the club at the minute, and it's him, Steve McLaren, Mitchell van der Gaag, and all the fucking rest of them, because it's not good enough. And until he goes and we have a new fresh lease of life at the club, this is never going to change. We can't go into the Jim Ratcliffe era with this man as manager, because it'll be a waste of a year and a waste of loads of money again. So there you go. I mean, we've got Chelsea on Thursday, and then I think we've got Liverpool next week. So fantastic stuff. If we lose them two, it's going to look really bleak for him. I hope we don't. I'm never someone who's going to hope that the club loses to get the manager out or prove a point about a player. I support Manchester United before anything else. I'd rather us win a game of football and him stay here than us lose it and him go. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully we do well there. Let me know your thoughts on the Brentford game in the comments below. But again, I think this was fairly spot on, to be honest with you, not to blow my own trumpet and toot my own horn. But if you don't realise these problems, then you are truly an idiot, and I'm sorry to offend you. But yeah, I'm going to go have a lie down and then watch the two best teams in the league, Arsenal and City, two of our biggest rivals, play a great game after Liverpool have probably just beaten Brighton. So brilliant stuff. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.